The chandelier above the head table swayed like a guilty conscience, casting fractured light across the faces frozen in mid-laughter. Andrew's fork clattered against his plate, the sound slicing through the toasts like a confession no one wanted to hear. "I can't pretend anymore," he said, his voice cracking the air as thick as the wedding cake's frosting. "Because loving Joseph isn't a flaw, it's the only truth I've got left." That was the moment the room tilted. The one where Aunt Marlene's champagne flute slipped from her manicured fingers and shattered on the linen, sending bubbles fizzing like suppressed sobs across the floor. But to understand why those words landed like grenades in the heart of the Gallagher family reunion, you have to rewind to the sticky summer of 2008 in Elmwood, Ohio, a town where cornfields stretched like judgmental fingers toward the sky, and secrets were buried deeper than the basement Bibles. Andrew Gallagher was 14 when he first knew he was different. Not in the way that made him the star quarterback or the kid who could whistle through a blade of grass, but in the quiet ache that bloomed whenever Tommy Hargrove from down the block stripped off his shirt after mowing lawns. It wasn't lust, not yet, just a pull, magnetic and terrifying, like staring too long at the sun. Elmwood was the kind of place where Friday nights meant bonfires and Bible study, where Pastor Reynolds preached fire and brimstone from a pulpit carved with verses about Sodom and Gomorrah. Andrew's parents, Tom and Elaine, were the epitome of that world. Tom with his calloused hands from the auto shop and Elaine with her potlucks and prayer chains, both convinced their only son was God's golden boy, destined for a wife named something floral and a house with a picket fence. The signs started small. Andrew's posters weren't of busted cheerleaders but of brooding indie bands with eyeliner and androgynous frontmen. He'd linger in the library's biography section, devouring stories of Oscar Wilde and Allen Ginsberg, his heart pounding as if he'd smuggled contraband. By 16, the whispers turned to shouts inside his head. At the senior prom, while his date, Sarah Jenkins, giggled about college dreams, Andrew's eyes drifted to the way the strobe lights caught the curve of Caleb's jawline across the gym. He bolted to the bathroom, retching into the sink, convinced the devil had taken up residence in his ribcage. Tom noticed first. "Boys just going through a phase," he'd grumble over dinner, forking into his meatloaf as if it could choke out the worry. Elaine, ever the fixer, started with the talks, gentle at first, laced with scripture. "God made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, honey." But when Andrew came out to them on a rain-lashed Halloween night in 2012, the junior year bomb that leveled the living room, the gentleness evaporated like morning mist. He'd rehearsed it 100 times in the mirror, the words tasting like ash. "Mom, Dad, I'm gay." Tom had frozen mid-sip of his cores, the condenting in his fist. Elaine's cross necklace swung like a pendulum as she whispered, "No, you're not. We raised you better." That night, the family Bible thumped open on the coffee table, pages dog-eared to Leviticus, and Tom declared it a spiritual battle. "We'll fight this together, son. It's not who you are. It's what's attacking you." The fixing began with prayer vigils in the basement, candles flickering like accusatory eyes. Elaine organized fasts, her lips moving in silent supplication while Andrew sat cross-legged on the cold concrete, stomach growling louder than his doubts. Then came the books, dog-eared pamphlets from Focus on the Family, promising deliverance through discipline. Tom enrolled him in a support group at the First Baptist Church, a circle of folding chairs where boys like Andrew swapped stories of temptation and triumph, their voices hoarse from reciting repentant psalms. But the real war waged in secret. Andrew learned to lie with the ease of breathing. Fake crushes on girls at school, alibis for late nights spent scrolling Grindr on his flip phone in the cornfields. He dated Becca for appearances, her laughter a brittle shield against the truth gnawing at his core. Inside, he was fracturing. Nights spent sobbing into his pillow, wondering if God's love had footnotes for sons like him. College was supposed to be salvation. Andrew fled to Ohio State in Columbus, a sprawling concrete jungle where the air hummed with possibility. He majored in English, burying himself in Whitman and Baldwin, their words a lifeline in the storm. That's where he met Joseph Ruiz in a cramped seminar on queer literature, the kind of class where the professor winked at subtext like an old friend. Joseph was everything Andrew wasn't. Unapologetic, with a laugh that echoed like summer thunder and eyes the color of aged whiskey. A theater major from Cleveland, he moved through the world like he owned it. Flamboyant scarves in winter, poetry slams where he'd belt verses about loving fiercely despite the world's sharp edges. Their first conversation was over a dog-eared copy of Giovanni's Room, Andrew fumbling the pages while Joseph leaned in, breath warm against his ear. "David's a coward? But you're not, are you?" It started with coffee, tentative sips in the Union's fluorescent glow. Joseph shared stories of his abuela's tamales and the abuela's quiet acceptance when he came out at 15. "Mijo, God's got bigger problems than who warms your bed." Andrew envied that grace, his own family's fixes, still echoing like phantom pains. But with Joseph, the walls crumbled. Late-night walks along the Olentangy River, hands brushing until they laced tight. Stolen kisses in the stacks of Thompson Library, tasting like rebellion and rain. By junior year, they were inseparable, a duo against the Midwest chill. Joseph dragged Andrew to his first Pride parade in Columbus, rainbow flags snapping like war banners, and for the first time, Andrew felt seen, not as a sinner to be saved, but as a soul to be cherished. They moved into a shoebox apartment off High Street, walls papered with playbills and pressed flowers from their first hike in Hocking Hills. Joseph's hands on Andrew's skin were maps to uncharted joy, each touch erasing a scar from the fixing years. But Elmwood's shadow loomed. Holidays were minefields. Tom and Elaine's calls grew clipped, laced with invitations to renewed prayer sessions. "We're praying for you, Andy," Elaine would say, her voice a tightrope of love and judgment. "Come home. Let us help." Andrew dodged, citing finals or Joseph's family trips. But guilt festered like an untreated wound. The betrayal came softly at first, a whisper in the wind. It was Christmas 2015, Andrew's senior year. He'd planned to bring Joseph home, a bold declaration scripted in his dreams. But Tom intercepted, phoning from the shop. "Son, we found a specialist. Dr. Hargrove, old family friend. Ex-gay therapy, real results. It's not too late." Andrew's blood ran cold. Tommy Hargrove's dad? The same family whose son had unwittingly sparked his awakening? The irony twisted like barbed wire. He hung up, hands shaking, and spilled it all to Joseph over mulled wine in their apartment. Joseph's face hardened, not with anger but sorrow. "They don't get it, Drew. They think love's a disease." That night they made a pact. No more hiding. Andrew would tell them clean break, or they'd forge their path without the Gallagher anchor. Spring brought blooms and burdens. Andrew graduated with a lit degree and a job offer at a Columbus indie press, editing manuscripts that sang of freedoms he'd only tasted. Joseph landed a role in a touring production of Angels in America. The irony not lost on them, Prior Walter's defiance mirroring Andrew's quiet storm. They celebrated with rooftop beers, Columbus skyline glittering like a promise. But Elmwood called back in July, insistent as a fever. Andrew's sister, Megan, was getting married, August 15th, in the family church, white tents in the backyard for the reception. "You have to come," she pleaded over Skype, her engagement ring flashing like a beacon. "Mom's a wreck planning it. And bring your friend if you must. Just don't make a scene." Andrew's stomach nodded. Megan was the golden child, 25 and glowing, engaged to bland but kind Derek from the bank. The wedding was Elmwood's event of the decade, a showcase of Gallagher normalcy. Joseph urged him to skip it. Why go back to the cage? But Andrew couldn't. Not fully. "One last try," he said, kissing Joseph's knuckles. "For her. For the kid I was." They drove down in Joseph's beat-up Civic, the Ohio Turnpike a ribbon of regret. Joseph fidgeted with the radio, switching from pop anthems to podcasts on queer history, his way of armoring up. Andrew stared at the fields, memories flooding. Cornstalk confessions, basement vigils, the weight of fixing like chains he couldn't quite snap. Elmwood welcomed them with open arms and veiled side eyes. The Gallagher house smelled of Elaine's lemon bars and Tom's Old Spice, a time capsule of tension. Dinner that first night was a tightrope. Tom grunting over the grill, flipping burgers like unresolved issues. Elaine fluttering with hugs that lingered too long, her eyes darting to Joseph's hand on Andrew's knee under the picnic table. Megan bridged the gaps with bridal chatter, but the air hummed with unspoken indictments. "You look happy, Andy," Tom said finally, smoke curling from his cigarette like a question mark. "This phase, it's not hurting you." Joseph's fork paused midair. Andrew swallowed. "It's not a phase, Dad. Joseph's my future." Silence fell thicker than the humidity. Elaine cleared her throat. "We're just concerned, honey. For your soul." The week blurred into rehearsals and passive prayers. Uncle Ray cornered Andrew in the garage. "Heard about that therapy. Why fight God?" Aunt Marlene slipped pamphlets under his pillow. "Love the sinner, hate the sin." Joseph, ever the performer, played polite, charming Derek with theater tales, helping Megan with centerpieces. But his eyes met Andrew's in stolen moments, a silent "we're out after the I-dos." The wedding day dawned sticky and golden, Elmwood's fields shimmering like a mirage of normalcy. Andrew woke to the coo of mourning doves and the rustle of Joseph's breathing beside him, their guest room a neutral zone in the Gallagher fortress. He traced the constellation of freckles on Joseph's shoulder, a map he'd memorized in darker hours. "You okay?" Joseph murmured, eyes still closed. Andrew nodded, throat tight. "As long as you're here." Downstairs, chaos reigned benevolent. Elaine barking orders at caterers, her apron dusted with flour like battle scars. Tom wrestling with the tent poles, sweat beading his brow. Megan floated through it all, veil trailing like a ghost of grace, pulling Andrew into hugs that smelled of Chanel and desperation. "Promise you'll dance with me?" she whispered, her eyes pleading for the brother she'd lost to the fixing. The church was a vault of vaulted ceilings and varnished pews, stained glass painting the aisle in hues of redemption. Reds for blood, blues for baptism. Andrew sat in the family row, Joseph squeezed beside him, their thighs pressed in solidarity. The organ swelled as Megan appeared, radiant in ivory lace, Derek beaming like he'd won the lottery. Vows exchanged in voices steady as scripture. "In sickness and health, till death do us part." Andrew's chest ached, not with envy, but a hollow echo of what he craved, untainted. The reception sprawled across the backyard, fairy lights twinkling against the dusk like hesitant stars. Tables groaned under pulled pork and potato salad, the air thick with laughter and Loretta Lynn on the speakers. Toasts flowed. Uncle Ray on marital bliss, Aunt Marlene on God's plan. Each clink of glass a subtle sermon. Joseph charmed the crowd, his stories of Broadway mishaps drawing chuckles. But Andrew felt the undercurrent. The glances at their linked hands, the whispers behind napkins. He nursed a Bud Light, the bottle sweating like his resolve. "You did good today," Joseph said, clinking his own. "Held it together." "Barely." Andrew scanned the crowd. Tom nursing a scotch, eyes distant. Elaine fussing over the cake, her smile a fragile veneer. Megan caught his eye from the dance floor, twirling with Derek, her wave a lifeline. Then it was time for Andrew's speech. As best man, honor thrust upon him weeks ago. He'd scribbled notes in his journal, words polished like river stones. But as he rose, microphone heavy in his palm, the script dissolved. The room hushed, forks pausing, faces turning expectant. Joseph's gaze burned steady from the head table, an anchor in the swell. Andrew cleared his throat, the sound amplified like a thunderclap. "Megan, Derek, watching you two today. It's like seeing love in its purest form. Unquestioned, unbroken." He paused, scanning the sea of relatives, their expressions a mosaic of curiosity and caution. Growing up Gallagher meant family first. Faith, fixing what's wrong before it festers. A murmur rippled. Elaine's hand fluttered to her pearls. Andrew pressed on, voice gaining steel. "Dad, Mom, you taught me that. With the prayers, the groups, the endless support. You tried to fix me when I told you I was gay. Like it was a carburetor gone bad in the shop, or a recipe missing salt." Tom's jaw tightened, glass halfway to his lips. Andrew's eyes stung, but he didn't blink. You said it was for my soul, for the family, but all it did was carve holes in mine. The room held its breath, a collective inhale. Aunt Marlene shifted, her chair scraping like a protest. Joseph reached under the table, fingers brushing Andrew's calf. A silent, "I've got you. I spent years hating the boy in the mirror," Andrew continued, voice raw as an open wound. "Dodging your love because it came wrapped in conditions. And Joseph," he turned, meeting those whiskey eyes, the world narrowing to just them. "He showed me what real fixing looks like. Not erasing who I am, but building on it. Loving the mess, the doubts, the dreams. He's my rock, my riot. My reason to believe God's got room for us queers at the table too." Gasps punctured the air. Elaine's face crumpled, a dam breaking. Tom stared at his plate, knuckles white around his fork. Megan's eyes welled, her hand over her mouth. Andrew barreled forward, the words he'd bottled for years uncorking like champagne. "Today, as you two start your life, I want you to know, love isn't a fix-it project. It's a vow to the whole damn person. Flaws, fire, and all. And if that shames anyone here." He swept his gaze across the tables, landing on his parents. "Then maybe it's time we all cry a little. For the sons we've tried to straighten, the daughters we've dimmed, the truths we've buried under good intentions." The microphone slipped from his fingers, thudding softly as he stepped back. Silence reigned, thick and accusatory, broken only by a sob from Elaine, shoulders shaking as she buried her face in her hands. Then the dam burst. Aunt Marlene's wail, Uncle Ray's muttered, "Lord have mercy." Cousins dabbing eyes with monogrammed napkins. Tom rose slowly, face ashen, crossing the grass to pull Andrew into a hug that smelled of smoke and sorrow. "Son, I'm sorry," he choked, the words a fracture in the facade. Joseph was there in seconds, arms wrapping around them both, a triad against the tide. Megan joined, her veil askew, whispering, "That was beautiful, brave." The dance floor emptied, then refilled with hesitant steps. Guests milling, some fleeing to the shadows, others clustering in tear-streaked huddles. But the night wasn't over. As fireworks cracked overhead, courtesy of Derek's cousins, Andrew slipped away to the old oak at the yard's edge, the tree where he'd carved his first initials at 12. Joseph found him there, leaning against the bark, stars pricking the sky like afterthoughts. "You slayed them," Joseph said, sliding down beside him, head on Andrew's shoulder. "Did I?" Andrew's voice wavered. "Or just broke what's left?" Joseph tilted his chin up, kissing him soft and sure. "You freed us. That's the difference." They sat like that, fireflies winking conspirators, until Elaine approached, her heels sinking in the grass. "Andy, can we talk?" Her eyes were red-rimmed, makeup streaked like war paint. Andrew tensed, Joseph's hand a steady weight in his. "Now?" She nodded, sinking onto the grass unladylike, skirts pooling. We thought we were saving you. From hell. From hurt." A tear traced her cheek. "But we hurt you worse. I'm so sorry, baby." The words hung, fragile as moth wings. Andrew's throat closed. "It wasn't just hurt, Mom. It was erasure. Like I wasn't your son. Just a problem to pray away." Elaine nodded, hands twisting her ring. "I see that now. Your speech gutted me, made me remember the boy who used to dance in the kitchen, no cares. I want that back. All of you." Tom lumbered up then, clearing his throat like gravel. "She's right. I pushed too hard. The therapy, the talks, stubborn pride. Afraid of what folks would say." He glanced at Joseph, extending a hand. "But your family now, son. If Andy says so." Joseph shook it, grip firm. "He does." The four of them sat under the oak, words tumbling like firework ash. Apologies, anecdotes, the slow thaw of forgiveness. Not instant, not perfect, but a start. Megan joined, Derek in tow, and the night wove them tighter, laughter piercing the grief. Yet betrayal's shadow lingered. It came the next morning, hangover heavy, as Andrew checked his phone. A text from Cousin Kyle, the family golden boy. Heard your little show. Posted it on FB, went viral in Elmwood. Hope you're happy. Attached. A grainy video of the speech, comments exploding like shrapnel. Disgrace to the name. Pray for him. Gallagher's gone woke. Andrew's stomach plummeted. Joseph cursed softly, pulling him close. They'll come around. Or they won't. But we've got us. The drive back to Columbus was quieter. Radio low on Springsteen anthems of broken highways and mended hearts. Andrew's phone buzzed nonstop. Stranger support. Family fallout. Elaine called twice. Ignore the noise, honey. We're proud. But the damage rippled, cracks in the foundation. Fall deepened. Leaves turning traitor gold. Andrew threw himself into work, editing queer memoirs that mirrored his own, while Joseph toured, his absence a hollow in the apartment. Letters arrived, hate mail from church ladies, cards from unexpected allies like Pastor Reynolds, who wrote, "Your words convicted me. Let's talk, Grace." The real storm hit in November, Joseph's show wrapping in Chicago. He called late. "Come up? Need you." Andrew drove through sleet, arriving to a hotel room strewn with scripts and sorrow. Joseph paced, face drawn. "My ex, Ricky, sent a package. Old photos, letters. Says he's dying. It wants closure." Andrew's world tilted. Ricky, Joseph's first love. The one who'd broken him in college with lies and leaving. "What do you need?" "You," Joseph said simply, collapsing into his arms. They talked till dawn. Ghosts exorcised, wounds lanced. It bonded them deeper. Joseph's vulnerability, a gift Andrew cradled. Christmas came redemptive. The Gallaghers invited them home. No strings. The tree twinkled with new ornaments. A rainbow bauble from Megan. A toolbox engraved, "For fixing hearts," from Tom. Elaine's meal was a feast of amends. Grace said inclusive. "For all at this table as we are." But humanism's edge is sharp. In the new year, as snow blanketed Elmwood, Andrew got the call. Uncle Ray, heart attack. At the funeral, the church overflowed with mourners. Pastor Reynolds preaching on legacy. Andrew spoke again, unscripted. "Uncle Ray taught me fishing, not fixing. Loved hard even when wrong." Whispers followed. Pride in his poise, shame in old sins. Joseph proposed that spring, under cherry blossoms in Goodale Park. Not on one knee, but both, rings simple silver. "Marry me, Drew. Let's write our vows unbreakable." "Yes," Andrew breathed, the word a vow itself. Their engagement rippled through Elmwood like a stone in still water. Circles of approval widening, but undercurrents of unease swirling. Megan squealed over brunch, sketching Pinterest boards of boutonnieres and beach ceremonies. Cape Cod? Or the Smokies? Something epic. Elaine, tentative, offered her lace hanky from her own wedding. "If you'll have it." Tom grunted assent over coffee, but his eyes held questions. The fixing ghost not fully banished. Andrew and Joseph dreamed big. A July wedding in Provincetown, Massachusetts, the gay mecca of America, where rainbow flags flew prouder than state ones and the Atlantic whispered freedoms. They budgeted fiercely. Andrew's editing gigs, Joseph's understudy roles scraping by, but love's alchemy turned pennies to promises. Invites went out on handmade cards, pressed lavender tucked inside. "Join us where the heart leads." Responses trickled. Yays from college friends, nos from distant aunts citing schedules. The Gallaghers committed, a milestone laced with nerves. "We'll drive up," Tom said. "Show the world our boy's happy." Spring unfurled in Columbus, dogwoods blushing pink. Andrew's novel took shape, a semi-autobiographical tale of a boy unfixing himself, chapters bleeding onto pages like therapy. Joseph directed a local rent, channeling his fire into La Vie Bohème anthems that left audiences weeping. Their nights were symphonies. Cooking paella with Joseph's abuela recipes, slow dances to Coltrane, bodies entwined in sheets that smelled of home. But betrayal brewed distant. Cousin Kyle, the FB poster boy, stewed in Elmwood's echo chamber. Emboldened by wedding buzz, he cornered Tom at the shop. "Letting Andy parade that? Folks talk." Church committees whispering boycott. Tom waved him off, but seeds of doubt sprouted, nights staring at ceilings, wondering if pride cost too much. June arrived humid. Rehearsals in P-Town a whirlwind. They rented a cottage on the dunes, waves crashing like applause. Vows crafted over wine. Andrew's promising to hold your truths as sacred. Joseph's vowing to dance through every storm. The planner, a drag queen named Sequin Sharp, quipped, "Darlings, this'll be gayer than a unicorn stampede." The Gallaghers arrived a week early, RV rumbling into the gravel drive like a reluctant pilgrim. Hugs were awkward but earnest. Elaine unpacking pies, Tom fiddling with the grill. Megan and Derek flew in, toddler in tow, a mini Megan with curls and curiosity. Dinners on the deck stretched long. Stories of Elmwood escapades met with Joseph's tales of Cleveland chaos, laughter bridging the miles. Yet tension threaded subtle. At a welcome clambake, Uncle Ray's widow, Aunt Linda, pulled Andrew aside. "Your speech last year stirred pots, but Ray would have been proud. Said you had guts." Her pat was benediction, but Kyle's absence loomed, RSVP'd yes, then ghosted. Rehearsal dinner glowed under tiki torches, sea air salty sweet. Toasts flowed, Megan's teary, to brothers who teach us love's not linear. Joseph's padre via Zoom, voice thick, "Me Joe, you found your familia." Andrew's turn came last, heart full. "P-Town's our promised land. Thanks for crossing the desert with us." The wedding dawned cerulean, sky vast as hope. The beach chapel, a white steepled gem, brimmed with blooms. Hydrangeas blue as Joseph's eyes, roses red as Andrew's resolve. Guests trickled. College crew in linen, P-Town locals with flair, the Gallaghers starched but smiling. Joseph waited at the altar, suit tailored sharp, boutonniere a single daisy, simple, defiant. Andrew walked the aisle alone, no father arm, his choice a reclaiming. Tom's nod from the pews was enough, eyes misty. Vows rang clear over the surf. "I, Andrew, take you, Joseph." Rings slid on, gold warmed by sun, sealing souls. The kiss soft, then fierce. Drew cheers, waves applauding. Reception sprawled on the sand. Lobster rolls, craft IPAs, a playlist from Nina Simone to Troye Sivan. Dances ignited. Joseph twirling Andrew under string lights, Tom swaying Elaine slow like their youth. Even the toddler boogied, sand in her toes. But as dusk painted the horizon lavender, Kyle appeared, like a specter from the turnpike. Sober suit, face flushed, he cornered Andrew by the bonfire. "Congrats, cuz. But this." He thrust his phone. Screenshots of a group chat, Elmwood faithful raging. "You shamed us all. Mom's crying, church is splitting. Dad's rolling in his grave." Andrew's champagne soured. "Kyle, that speech was truth. If it hurts, it destroys." Kyle hissed, voice venom. "Grandpa Gallagher built this family on faith, not this freak show." He gestured wildly, drawing eyes. Joseph materialized, hand on Andrew's shoulder. "Easy, man. This day's not yours to poison." Kyle laughed bitter. "Oh, the Savior speaks. Bet you lured him into this." The accusation landed like a slap, betrayal's blade, twisting old wounds. Guests hushed, a circle forming. Tom stepped in, voice low thunder. "Enough, Kyle. Blood don't mean blind." But Kyle wasn't done. "Ask your dad about the letters he sent the pastor. Begging prayers to cure Andy. We all knew. Family secret." The words detonated. Andrew whirled on Tom, face draining. "Letters? You? After everything?" Tom deflated, shoulders sagging. "Son, I was scared. Thought I was protecting. By outing me to the whole damn town?" Andrew's voice cracked, tears hot. Elaine gasped, hand to mouth. The bonfire crackled mocking, flames leaping like accusations. Joseph pulled him away, into the dune's shadow. "Breathe, Drew. He's lashing. Don't let him win." But the damage seeped. Andrew retched into the sand. Years of fixing resurfacing like bile. They never stopped. All the amens, the hugs, lies. The party limped on, forced jollity masking the fracture. Megan cornered Kyle, hissing, "Get out, now." He slunk away, tail between legs, but screenshots spread. Guests' phones buzzing with the chat's vitriol. That night, honeymoon haze shattered. Andrew and Joseph curled on the cottage porch, waves a lullaby to their grief. "We can't go back," Andrew whispered. "Not like this." Joseph nodded, tracing his ring. "Then we don't. Build forward. Our family, our rules." Morning brought hangovers and heart-to-hearts. The Gallaghers gathered, air heavy as fog. Tom spoke first, voice gravel. "Kyle's wrong. Those letters. Desperation. I burned them after your speech. Should have burned the hate sooner." Tears carved tracks down his cheeks. "Forgive an old mechanic his rust?" Andrew searched his face, seeing the boy who'd raced bikes with him, not the fixer. "Yeah, Dad, but no more secrets." Elaine embraced him, sobbing, "Never again. You're my son. Gay, glorious whole." They left P-Town changed, RV convoy snaking north. Kyle's betrayal echoed, but so did the vows, unbreakable. Fall anchored them in Columbus, roots deepening. Andrew's novel sold to a small press, unfixed, hitting shelves with a dedication. "To those who love without conditions." Joseph's equity card gleamed, callbacks flooding. They adopted a mutt named Whitman, for soft as forgiveness. Thanksgiving tested. Elmwood or no? They chose neutral, Columbus potluck with friends, Gallaghers invited. Tom arrived with pie, Elaine with stories. Kyle sent an apology text, ignored. Healing wasn't linear, but it inched. Winter whispered of loss. Joseph Sabuela passed, quiet in sleep. The funeral in Cleveland was a tapestry of tears and tamales. Andrew holding Joseph's hand through eulogies. "She saw me," Joseph said later over her recipe. "Really saw." Andrew's came softer. A call from Elaine, voice quavering. "Your books. It's you. On every page. I'm reading it to your dad at night." Pride swelled. A bomb. Spring 2018 bloomed with possibility. They bought a fixer-upper in Clintonville, Victorian creeks and charm. Weekends hammered nails, painted walls rainbows subtle. "Our foundation," Joseph quipped. "No prayers required." But climax crested in June, anniversary eve. Andrew planned a surprise. Tickets to Angels on Broadway, Joseph's dream. The train to New York hummed anticipation, skyline rising like a heartbeat. The show gutted them. Pryor's rage, Belize's wisdom, the chorus of the dying. Intermission. Joseph gripped Andrew's knee. "That's us. Surviving the plague of judgment." Post-curtain. Over dim sum in Chinatown, Joseph proposed a sequel. Kids? Someday? Andrew's yes was a seed planted. Back home, the letter waited, certified, from Elmwood First Baptist. Pastor Reynolds. "Andrew, your words echo still. Invite to speak on grace on gay sons. If willing." Andrew stared, pulse thundering. "Go back? After Kyle?" Joseph smiled fierce. "Conquer it. With me." The sermon date loomed August, wedding anniversary echo. They prepped. Andrew scripting not confrontation, but conversation. Stories of Joseph's laugh, Tom's thaw, the oak tree truths. Elmwood buzzed wary. Church packed. Skeptics shoulder to shoulder with seekers. Andrew at the pulpit, Joseph in the front pew, felt the weight, chandelier sway, like that fateful reception. "I come not to shame," he began, voice steady, "but to share." Fixing was fracture. Love mends. Words flowed. Betrayals bared, not as weapons but bridges. Kyle slipped in late, face gaunt, eyes locked. When Andrew said, "Even betrayers deserve grace," Kyle rose, voice breaking. "I'm sorry, cuz. Jealous. Lost my way." Applause thundered, hesitant then whole. Hands shook after. "Thank you. Changed me." Tom hugged him fierce. "Proud son. Damn proud." The afterglow of that sermon lingered like summer fireflies, flickering hope through Elmwood's veins. Andrew's talk went viral. Not Kyle's poison, but redemption reels, shared from Ohio to Oregon. Invites poured. Podcasts probing unfixing. Churches craving dialogue. Even a TEDx slot in Columbus. He and Joseph fielded them like partners in crime, turning spotlights into stepping stones. Life settled into rhythm, a waltz of work and whimsy. Andrew's novel climbed indie lists, fan mail arriving scented with lavender and longing, readers whispering, "You voiced my silence." He signed at local bookstores, Joseph emceeing with flair, their duo a draw. Evenings, they hosted salons. Wine and words, queers and allies unpacking Baldwin over board games. The Gallaghers evolved tentative. Monthly drives to Columbus, Tom's toolbox in tow for house fixes, Elaine's quilts warming the guest bed. One visit, she unpacked a box. Old journals, Andrew's teen scrawls. Burned the bad ones, she said. Kept the beauty. They read aloud, laughter salting tears. Entries on first crushes, coded as the boy with the blue bike. Betrayal scar itched, though. Kyle resurfaced sporadically. A Christmas card, stiff but sincere. A coffee in Elmwood, where he admitted, "Therapy's helping. Seeing my own fixes now." Andrew forgave piecemeal, boundaries firm as beach glass. Fall 2018 brought a curve. Joseph's callback for Hadestown off-Broadway. 6 months, maybe more, he said over breakfast tacos, eyes alight. Andrew's gut twisted, separation specter. But he pushed joy forward. Go slay Hades. I'll be your Persephone, waiting. The send-off was epic. Friends roast at a dive bar, toasts to hell's hottest couple. Andrew drove him to the airport, kiss lingering at security like a vow. Call every night, Joseph murmured. Dream of me. New York swallowed him. Rehearsals dawned to dusk, texts buzzing with backstage banter. Andrew filled voids with writing. A sequel brewing. Mended. Tales of after the fracture. But loneliness crept. Nights scrolling Joseph's Insta. Hearts aching for the space beside him. Thanksgiving solo, he joined the Gallaghers. First without Joseph, a test of new normal. Elmwood's table groaned festive. Turkey carved by Tom. Elaine's yams candied sweet. Megan's toddler babbled Unca and Do. Climbing his lap, a tiny anchor. Conversation veered gentle. Book success, Joseph's glow up. But post-pie, Tom pulled him to the garage, cores in hand. Missed the boy, like missing a limb. Andrew nodded, throat tight. Me too. But it's growth, right? Like you letting go of the fix. Tom chuckled rueful. Still working that. Pastor says grace is practice. He clapped Andrew's shoulder. You're teaching me, son. Christmas shimmered virtual. Joseph's FaceTime from a snowy Manhattan. Carolers in the background. Got you something, he teased, parcel arriving days later. A locket with their photo, engraved, unbreakable. Andrew's gift. Tickets home for New Year's. Reunion at midnight, Port Authority chaos. Arms colliding like comets. Missed you, Joseph breathed, luggage forgotten. They rang in 2019 on the High Line. Fireworks bursting over Hudson. Hands linked against the cold. Spring tested deeper. Joseph's run extended. Acclaim, but exhaustion etching his face. Andrew visited weekends. Train rides blurring into blurs of Broadway buzz and hotel romps. One matinee after, over falafel in the village, Joseph confessed. Ricky called again. Forgiven him, mostly, but it stirred. Doubts. Am I enough? Andrew's heart clenched. You're everything. Doubts are the devil's echo. Remember. Joseph nodded, but shadows lingered. Back in Columbus, Andrew dove into therapy. Solo sessions unpacking the fixing residue, Joseph's absence amplifying old fears. Abandonment's my ghost, he journaled. Words a exorcism. Climax brewed in June, Joseph's closing night. Andrew flew up, front row for the finale. Applause thundering like pride. Cast party pulsed electric. Champagne toasts, Orpheus hugs. But as dawn crept, Joseph pulled him to the alley fire escape. Face grave. Offer came. West End, London. Year long. What do we do? Andrew's world stuttered. We? Or you go, I follow. Joseph's eyes searched. Both, if you're game. The decision crystallized over croissants at dawn. Yes. Andrew's press allowed remote, freelance calls beckoning. They sublet the Clintonville Whitman boarded with friends. Goodbye party wept joy. Gallagher's toasting to empires built together. London welcomed with rain and romance. A flat in Notting Hill charmed creeks and corner pubs. Joseph's Hadestown bowed to raves, him as Hermes, Rye winged. Andrew edited from cafes, novel too surging. Mornings. Market strolls for scones. Afternoons. Joseph's rehearsals. Evenings. Thames walks, hands swinging. But transatlantic tugged. Tom's emails grew wistful. House feels empty without you. Elaine's packages. Cookies, clippings of Andrew's reviews. A call home shattered. Megan's miscarriage, quiet grief. They booked flights, landing in Elmwood mid-blues. The house wrapped them soft. Hugs from the toddler, now walking. Megan leaned on Andrew, sobs soaking his shirt. Why us? He held her, whispering Joseph's lines. Wait for me. Tom grilled quiet. Elaine prayed aloud, now inclusive, for healing hearts. Betrayal's echo? Cal showed. Tentative. Heard about Meg. Sorry. He brought pie, stayed for stories, his own therapy tales, a boyfriend shy admitted. Learning late, he shrugged. Andrew clasped his arm. Better late than never. Summer waned. London called back. Before leaving, a family picnic under the oak. Vows renewed casual. To branches that bend, not break. Tom's toast. To my sons, both of you. Across the pond, life bloomed expatriate. Andrew's mended launched UK side. Readings in queer bookshops drawing crowds. Joseph's run extended whispers of film. They adopted rituals. Sunday roasts with flatmates, pride floats on canal boats. Fall brought a gift. Joseph's abuela's ring, passed via cousin. For your someday, the note read. They dreamed aloud. Surrogacy, adoption, a nursery in their future. But humanism humbles. Winter 2020 dawned dark. COVID's shadow creeping global. Theaters shuttered, Joseph's visa wobbling. Flights grounded. They hunkered in the flat. Whitman shipped over in a cargo miracle. Days blurred. Zooms with agents, baking disasters, Netflix marathons. Andrew's calls home pierced. Elmwood locked down, Tom's cough worrying. Just a bug, he rasped. But tests confirmed mild COVID. Weeks of worry, daily check-ins. Elaine's voice frail. Praying double now. Joseph channeled stagecraft into sanity. Puppet shows for neighbors' kids from the window. Original songs streamed for isolated fans. Andrew wrote feverishly. A pandemic novella. Quarantined hearts. Queers connecting through screens. Spring thawed tentative. Tom's recovery slow but sure. Voice strengthening. Beat it like a bad carburetor. They visited virtually. Family game nights via Jackbox. Laughter a lifeline. Betrayal revisited soft. Kyle's text. Post-quarantine. Out to the folks. They. Trying. Thanks for the blueprint. Andrew replied. Proud. Welcome to the Unclub. Summer 2021. Vaccines violate victory. Theaters flickered reopen. Joseph's callback. A queer musical. The Fix. Meta-miracle. Andrew's novella shortlisted. Readings hybrid. Anniversary marked 5 years. Thames picnic. Rings polished. Vows whispered. Through fixes and fractures, Joseph said. Forever unashamed. Andrew echoed. The call came autumnal. Tom's heart, faltering. Come home, son, Elaine urged. They packed hasty. London goodbye tear-streaked. Elmwood airport small, arms waiting. Tom frail in the recliner, but grin wide. Look at you two world travelers. Weeks blurred caregiving. Joseph's soups. Andrew's readings aloud from unfixed. Stories bridged. Tom's shop yarns. Joseph's stage secrets. One night, fire crackling, Tom pulled them close. Regrets? Few. But wishing I'd fixed me first, the fear. Tears fell shared. Love you boys. Proud. He slipped quiet. Dawn's light gilding the room. Funeral packed. Church full, eulogies echoing Andrew's grace. Pastor. Tom Gallagher learned late, loved large. Grief wove them tighter. Elaine moved part-time to Columbus, quilting in the spare room. Megan's rainbow baby announced months later, a nephew named Thomas Joseph. London called back, but they chose roots, Columbus calling clearer. Joseph's stateside gigs bloomed. Andrew's third book contracted. Winter 2022 settled soft, snow blanketing Elmwood like absolution. The Gallagher house, once a fortress of fixes, now hummed hybrid. Elaine's Afghans draped over Joseph's scripts, Tom's toolbox shelved as relic. Andrew and Joseph shuttled weekends, a rhythm of remembrance and renewal. Megan's babe, little TJ, gummed at Andrew's fingers, eyes wide as Joseph's tales. Betrayal's last gasp came veiled. Kyle's wedding invite arrived spring. To his partner, Mark, a quiet engineer from Dayton. No speeches. The note joked. But your blessing? They went P-Town ghosts in Elmwood's hall. Kyle, tucks sharp, hugged fierce. You started this. Unfixed us all. Vows rang true. Dances mingled. Old wounds waltzed into irrelevance. Summer scorched. Opportunities ignited. Joseph's The Fix bowed off Broadway. Him lead. A meta-queer odyssey. Critics crowing raw as redemption. Andrew's novella won Indie Gold. Tour tracing coasts. They toured tandem. Joseph's curtain calls. Andrew's signings. Hotel nights a carousel of connection. Fall whispered family. Surrogacy talks with a Cleveland artist. Emma. Warm. Witty. Wanting to carry their story. Consults cautious, dreams daring. Two dads, one hell of a kid. Joseph quipped. Ultrasound grainy as hope. Elaine's blessing came tearful. A grandchild? From my brave boy. She knit booties rainbow-threaded. Tom's spirit in every stitch. Climax crested December. Holiday lights twinkling tentative. Emma's positive test, twins, a boy and girl. Joy exploded. Calls to Megan. Brunches with Kyle's crew. But ultrasound shadows. Complications. Bedrest urged. Fear flickered. Joseph's hand steady on Andrew's knee during waits. Vigil became village. Elaine's soups delivered. Friends' meal trains. Joseph's songs lulled Emma via speaker. Andrew's chapters read bedside. Crisis peaked January, preterm scare. NICU dash. Huddled in sterile halls. Andrew prayed not to pews but to the love beside him. Let them breathe. They did. Tiny lungs inflating. Monitors beeping triumph. Names chosen. Elias Tom, for the fixer-turned-father. Lila Elaine, for the grace giver. Homecoming bloomed April. Columbus condo a nursery of wonders. Mobiles spinning stories, cries a chorus. Parenthood reshaped. Sleep stolen but souls full. Joseph's lullabies Spanish lilted. Andrew's books board-bound. Elaine relocated full, grandma throne claimed. Megan's visits doubled. TJ bossing his cousins with toddler tyranny. Betrayal? Faded footnote. Kyle's card. Uncle duties await. Mark's game. The family quilt patched. Threads queer and straight woven whole. Years unspooled golden. Elias's first steps toward Joseph's arms. Lila's giggles at Andrew's rhymes. Books tripled. A children's series. Unfixed adventures. Tots tumbling through truths. Joseph's Tony nod. Andrew's MacArthur whisper. Acclaim shared. Spotlight split. 10th anniversary, 2028. Cape Cod redux. Dunes whispering vows renewed. Kids toddled waves. Elaine cooed. Ghosts of fixes long buried. Tom's oak-etched stone watched from Ohio. Peaceful. One eve, porch swing creaking, Joseph murmured. We made it. From basement prayers to this. Andrew kissed his temple. Not made mended. Human as hell. The end? No, humanism's arc bends endless. Elias questions crushes at 12. Andrew's words ready. Love's your truth, kid. Own it. Lila dances defiant. Joseph's fire in her feet. Kyle's kids' playdates. Mark's barbecues. Family fluid. Fierce. In Elmwood's fields, corn still sways, but secrets sprout free. Andrew's statue? Nah. Better the stories, whispered at weddings, echoing, fix nothing, love all. And in the Gallagher heart, once fractured, now full, a legacy unashamed, unbreakable, alive.